Alright, hey, what is up, you guys? This is Nico here with Burn One. I'm going to be going over my Choice Bar Symphogear deck that I played for our most recent tourney. I played this over 8 bar just because I like the consistency, if you want to call it that, that this deck has over something like 8 bar. So let's just get into a kind of like a quick rundown of what we got. So we have 4 of the Clean Cut, 3 of a Saver, 3 of an Honor-verse Ricky, 1 Climax Swap and Double Drop Search, 3 of the Kirika Changer, 3 of a Self-Tap Salvage Brainstorm, 2 of the Chiuri, 1 of our Magro combo, 1 Stockadachi, 2 Kirika Harna Encore cards. Then we have 3 of the events, 1 Tsubasa counter, 1 Chris counter, 2 of the 2-1 Miku supports. We have the girls in their package, and then we also have a Carol stock swap. Okay, let's start breaking this down a little bit level by level. So, 4 of the Clean Cut lets you be aggressive. This is actually, I'm considering potentially cutting this and reworking the level 0 game a little bit, just because Clean Cut is like the card to tech against currently. And let's say you're playing something against Kaguya. If they open K Runner, you're just in a really awkward spot. And then with stuff like Grisaya making a slight comeback, them having access to JC, Clean Cut's just kind of not in a... I feel like it's kind of falling out of favor in the meta. Thankfully for Symphogear, you can play something instead, like you can play a coin flip for your plussing 0. It's just a generic 2k, reveal top. If it's level 1 or higher, you add it to hand. And you can also play a Mill Runner. So, you got replacements, but for now, if you're not super concerned about, like, clashing into, like, the top meta decks, Clean Cut works fine. Next, we have 3 of the Hibiki Saver. You can tap it to give something 1500 power, and then when it's in the back row, you can choose to send it to the waiting room to take a character that's about to be placed into the waiting room and place it onto the field rested instead. So, it's nice. You can use it to save your level 1 Climax combo. You can use it to save a Clean Cut, so on and so forth. Lets you recycle cards. It's not the greatest. This isn't why you're running the deck or anything. It's just a nice card to have. And it's a Hibiki name. We have 3 of the Miku Riki. On attack, you pump something by 5, and then when it's reversed, you pay 1, take a damage, search your deck for level 1 and lower card, add it to hand. It's a plus. Kind of need to run it. Next, we have what I consider to be one of the MVPs of the deck. This is a Hibiki. You can Climax swap with it, which is mainly the main reason you're playing it, but you also have the effect of you can pay 1 and ditch 2 cards when you play this card down to search your deck for a Miku and search your deck for a Hibiki and add it to your hand. So the being able to pull 2 cards out of your deck on like first deck is really good. You also have fairly decent targets you can search from an effect like this. You can search, if it's like, your second turn and you went first, you can search for like a Clean Cut and a Ricky, or a Clean Cut and a Brainstorm. Or then if you're like a little later into the game, you can search for like your combo and this 2-1 Miku. It's just really, really nice, and it can, sometimes you can also get a little Climax cloggy and you don't want to play the Kirikas down to kind of ditch CX Salvage because you want to play it down on like the your changer turn. So having the hand filter from this is also pretty nice. And so speaking of this, we have the Kirika. On play, you can ditch CX to salvage, and then on play, you can discard a music character specifically to search your deck for this 2-1 counter. You gotta run it. This is probably the best change package they introduced with XV. The fact that you can also salvage by ditching a CX with this is pretty bonkers. Card's really sick. Also, if you have like multiple of these, don't be afraid to play this down. You don't need the bar and turn 1 or turn 2. So if you need to grab something from your waiting room, I would usually not feel bad playing this down and grabbing something by like ditching a bar if you have one in your hand. For our Brainstorm, we just choose to run the Miku. It's just a tap self-salvage Brainstorm. Pretty whatever. You can also choose to run a Hibiki in this spot. Yeah. It's just nice. I also like the art on this too. Finally, for our last level 0, we have 2 of the Chiuri. Gives you a little bit extra deck speed. Lets you grab your events, lets you grab your combos. so on and so forth. Surprisingly, the pay to salvage effect is actually super relevant because the Kirika Shirabe top end doesn't require a lot of stock, so you can focus on kind of like almost spending your stock pretty liberally. So you can use this to like grab back your clean cut, grab a level 1 combo for the next turn, so on and so forth. But yeah, surprisingly, the pay to salvage on this is super relevant. Okay. Now, let's get into our level 1. So for level 1, we're running 4 of the combo. I'll talk about that last because I got most to say about it. We also are running 1 of the 1-1 stock Adachi. This is kind of a flex spot. You don't need to run this. It's very meta dependent, but I ran it just to kind of have it if I need it. And then finally we have the Kirika Haruna Encore. It gets 500 per. It can't side attack. And then it has, if your entire board is gone, you can pay 1 to rest this. Your entire front row, I mean, rather. This, so surprisingly, the level 0 Kirika here, its condition of having a full board to be able to early play the event, or almost a full board, can be pretty relevant on occasion. So this kind of lets you just keep an extra character in the front row so that you don't have to like super like fully commit and hope for a kind of like to get something off a clock draw. So this card's actually fairly nice to have, but it's also a flex spot. You can choose to run other cards in this spot if you want to. Like you can also choose to run the Shirabe kind of like Kirita clone to where you can pump something 1500 power on play, and then you also have when it gets sent to the waiting room, you can look up to 3. Choose a character from there, add it to your hand, and then ditch a card. So, other cards you can run for this. You mainly don't need to run that card, though, because you're running this combo. So, for this combo, it's got the generic Maguro profile, where if you have 2 other music characters on attack, you can choose to look it up to 4 cards, add a music character from among them to your hand, put the rest into your waiting room. Or, if you're in a kind of like a win more type of game state, you can choose to let this trigger twice instead. This is different than Twin Drive, mind you. You're just gaining extra stock off of this. So, the main reason you would want to play something like this over, say, the Kirika combo they introduced in XV is this lets you get through your deck really, really quickly and kind of puts you into a much better deck state much faster. I feel like one of the downsides of a lot of the 8-bar builds is occasionally you can get stuck in a really crappy first deck state to where even though you have like this incredibly strong level 2 onwards package to fall back on, it can feel really bad having to fall back on like this package when you're like 2-4, 2-5 just because you have to take a whole bunch of damage because you weren't in a compressed deck state. So I like this a lot. The downside to this though is, if you noticed, this card is 5,000 power. That's not very strong, and it also doesn't get any power when it attacks. And unfortunately, our only power pumps for this is the Saver, which can pump it by 15, and then the Miku Riki, which can pump it by 500. So, a lot of the times, you'll only have these swinging in at like 6k, which is why you actually want to be making use of your Miku Riki a lot, to try to push yourself to 1, because you want to try to have them kind of like crash in and kill these cards, so that way you don't have to crash these and feel really bad about like, you know, siding from level 1 onwards or leaving your opponents open lanes just because like their power doesn't get to be that big. Yeah, so that's really the main reason why. So, I guess we'll talk about like the real meat and potatoes of Symphogear. It's the level 2 and onwards game. So, you have 3 of this event here. The event more or less reads, if you have 4 or more music characters on the stage, you send this Kirika Changer to memory. You can summon one of these Kirikas, and then you can put the event in level. And whenever one of these Kirikas summoned, you can either heal or you can pay 1, draw a card, and then spawn either a Kirika or a Shirabe. So it can become really, really easy to just create a board of really, really strong early plays from just a couple cards. And the fact that it also it lets you sack your opponent occasionally because you get to draw the card first, is really, really, really good. So for these cards, the Kirika has an on-attack Mocha effect, just for your opponent, though. So long as you have this in level zone, mind you. This can occasionally be a random condition. And then it also gets 1,000 power. Being able to Mocha your opponent from level 2 onwards, almost every turn, can be a little ridiculous. So, from your opponent's second deck state is usually going to be at a point where they're going to be really, like, at their most compressed in a lot of games. So, being able to just, like, stick 2s and 3s on their second deck state when they're supposed to be canceling just by, like, peeling climaxes off the top is really ridiculous. And it's... I think this is, like, one of the first truest kind of, like, really aggro decks that they've printed in a while. And then the Shirabe has something similar. It has on attack with a gold bar. You can discard a music character specifically, mind you, to burn your opponent for 2 damage. This is something more you're going to transition into, like, your actual kill turn. So how this will typically go is you're going to hit 2. You're going to spawn out probably 2 or 3 of the Kirikas, and either none or, like, 1 of the Shirabes. And you're going to prioritize using the Mocha effect to try to put, like, just keep pushing damage and maybe try to set them to 3-0. And then from then on, you're going to really probably prioritize using the Shirabes and the extra burn 2s they provide to kind of seal the deal from there. Yeah, I think Kit already explained a lot of the other interesting combos and the like you can do with these. So, like, to give you an example, you can side a level 3 with the Kirika to confirm damage when your opponent's at, like, 3-5 and then immediately burn them for 2 afterwards as a follow-up. Yeah, there's just, like, a lot of these types of plays that's available to the deck, and it's a little ridiculous. I actually think this is most likely going to get banned. If not banned, it's going to get hit really hard with this next upcoming ban list, just because this... It's not bad when this is done for 1 turn. The problem is, this card comes back to your hand. So how this works, I don't think I explained it, is when the Kirika is banished and you start spawning, the Kirika comes back to your hand at the start of climax phase. So you'll always have at least 1 music character to discard for Shirabe if you're going to combo off. And even if you don't discard it, if you keep this for next turn, you can just search for the event, if you still have one in your deck, and you can just literally do this all over again. Especially, like, if you say, like, let's say you trigger a choice on one of the Kirikas that are, like, on one of your attacks here, and you grab back another Kirika, you're just more or less just, like, literally going to be recurring your combo again and again and again. It's like it never ends. Just from level 2 onwards, you're going to be facing down these level 3s practically every turn. And you're put on a real timer here. Okay, so to kind of round it out, let's talk about some of our other cards. We have these 2 counters. I ran these for the event. I would actually change both of them. The 2-1 Tsubasa I would most likely change into a 2-1 Kirika promo counter that they have from XV. It's just a 3,500 counter. Nice to have. And then the 2-1 Chris counter, anti-change isn't really relevant right now, mainly because a lot of the decks that you would want to anti-change already have ways around it, or they just don't really care. To give you an example of this, let's say you're playing against Choice Pants Mushoku. They'll play down, when they go into their early play turn, they'll play down the 3-2 Rudius early play that gets, like, super massive and then turns off backups. So they'll win 1 lane with that, and then they'll attack again with, like, their other early play that's a stock healer. It doesn't feel good to, like, anti-change after you, like, one of your characters is already dead, just to, like, negate an attack of a stock healer and send that to the waiting room. It's just, it's kind of whatever. That and the 8 standby stuff running around, like Nijigasaki and stuff. Even if you sack something, and even if you kill it, they can either just stand by it and one of their next swings, so you more or less just did nothing. So this just kind of feels bad. So I'd run the 2-1 Giriga counter that gives 3,500 backup, and the 2-1 Leafa counter from X-Drive Unlimited, just because it's better. Obviously, this is meta dependent, but I feel like those would have been better to be put into these slots. Next, we can talk a little bit about the Miku support. You can probably cut this down to 1. I just kind of like running these at 2, because I feel like a lot of the times these kind of get stuck in a zone. Like it'll be like the first thing I trigger on a swing when I'm swinging with 3, and then I just can like never get it out from there. So I like running these at 2, but this is definitely probably something like you can run at 1 without feeling too bad about it. So the effect is it gives your level 3s in front 2,000 power. You can tap it to give something 1,000 power, and then whenever you trigger a choice on attack, you can look at the top card of your opponent's deck and either leave it there or put it to the bottom. Being able to confirm even more damage with this card is nice. The effect, while not very regular and occasionally not very relevant, can be. So it's just really nice to have. You don't have too many other like great alternatives you can run in this spot as well. So this is nice. That, and if you don't really need it, you can choice it away if you trigger choice. So it's good to have. That, and it's searchable off of our drop search here. And then finally, our last card, we have the Carol Stock Swap. You have 6 other red cards in this list that you can level if you really want to play this. You can probably cut this down and replace it with something else. Like, I think instead of this, I was running the 3-2 Shirabe from AXZ. That's just an early play healer and on-attack Shimikaze. So, very flex spot. This is also very meta-dependent. And even then, one could really argue, since you're already running a Mocha, you don't really need Stock Swap. But it's still kind of nice to have. Against certain decks, like Mushoku and stuff. Alright, I think that just about covers it for this list. If you guys have any questions or anything, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. I'll see if I can answer any of them. And yeah, guys, have a good day.